Welcome to Leaders in Lending. I'm your host, Jeff Keltner. And this week, I just wanted to have a short episode and talk to you guys a little bit about the recent event that Upstart hosted in San Francisco called Boosted, where AI meets finance. This was a first of what we hope to make an annual event. And as such, we were really excited that we got over 200 people in the room to talk about these really important topics. I think it's really critical to us that we keep an intimate size event where we can have real conversation, not just content, but conversation among the attendees. And I thought this first time event really exceeded our expectations in terms of how well it came off and the quality of both the attendees and the content that was delivered. Quick run through the event took place at the historic Palace Hotel in San Francisco. I had not spent a lot of time at the Palace, and it was a really cool location. We kicked off our first evening with a presentation by Marc Benioff, who always delivers, I think, an interesting explanation of the history of Salesforce and the things they're doing and the force they see business being for not just profits, but for change in the world. And that was a great conversation. We then had a performance by Leslie Odom Jr., better known as Aaron Burr, sir, from Hamilton. That was a stunning way, I thought, as a Hamilton fan in particular, a great way to kick off the event. And Leslie Odom not only did some stuff from Hamilton, but some of his other work, which was really phenomenal and a great way to set the mood and kind of set the stage for the day that followed. Day two, really a content heavy day with a lot of time for networking. But I really enjoyed the agenda. I thought I got a lot of great feedback. So quickly run through who we heard from and what we talked about a little bit. Dave Girouard, Upstart's CEO, gave us a little perspective on Upstart's mission and really our goal generally of working with the industry and financial institutions to drive more inclusive lending, broader access to credit, lower price credit, broadly speaking, for the American consumer, and highlighting how far we are away from the opportunity to realize that vision, how far we still have to go to really be as inclusive in our ability to lend as we can, and how many Americans are being left out of the credit system, at least the traditional credit system, despite being credit worthy. So a really powerful way to kick off the conversation. We moved to a discussion with Pam Habner, who runs branded card and unsecured at Citi, and Swati Bhatia, who runs Marcus at Goldman Sachs, talking about, from a big bank's perspective, what the trends they see coming are in the consumer lending space, where they're headed, a lot about the challenges they see and the opportunities and how they're engaging customers in a digital way. Thought a great discussion. We then moved to a discussion with Nicole Elam from the National Bankers Association, Association of Minority Depository Institutions here in the US, really talking about what the needs of those institutions are, what the support during COVID has been, how their institutions have maybe seen a different experience than standard, and how we as a financial services industry and as FinTechs can best support their depository institutions moving forward. Thought that was a really great discussion, a powerful moment for us. We also had conversation with Amy Walter from the Cook Political Report. That was maybe a deep dive on politics, where we're at, what the midterms hold, what maybe that bodes for regulatory action, executive actions, legislation across the board. This is always, whenever I meet with financial institutions, one of the key topics they want to talk about, want to learn more about, is this question of what's coming from Washington. What do we see next? And Amy really delivered in a fascinating way on those topics, both in the political election landscape, the regulator landscape, the executive action landscape, and what we see coming and how that might impact financial institutions. So that was a great discussion. We then dove into a totally different space with Dr. Gordon Liao from Uniswap, talking about crypto. Where's crypto going? It was a really fascinating time. I think originally we had planned to spend a lot of time on stable coins as a bridge between DeFi and TradFi. Today was an interesting week to have a discussion about stable coins, because stable coins had not always been that stable. So that led to a great discussion about what the opportunities are, what the roadblocks are between here and there, but really what the vision is for where crypto, Web3, or the whole DeFi space can go, the opportunities it has to change the game and remake the system. So that was a really good conversation. We had a great conversation with Angela Strange from Andreessen Horowitz about kind of what she sees in the FinTech landscape, how the game's changing, where the new opportunities are, kind of what's going on in that space. I thought it was a really fun conversation, particularly for someone who's been through the beginnings of the company all the way through the growth stages, to understand where a venture capitalist is looking at the landscape, how they see the opportunities, what's evolving, how they make decisions about where to invest and where not. And a fun story about the first meeting between Angela and our CEO Dave Girouard, and their joint love of running, although maybe different speeds. Um, we also had a conversation with Tala CEO Shivani Soroya. Um, Tala really focused on serving the billions of users outside the US who have very little access to credit, with both credit products, where they really started with short-term loans for people in emerging markets. They really operate today in the Philippines, Mexico, India, and Kenya. And so kind of how they've done credit, why they've started shifting into also more traditional banking, depository type products, how that really unlocks opportunity for their customers and their consumers. So a really great discussion there. And finally, we ended the day with one of my favorite discussions. I got to host this and interview Yelena McWilliams, the former chairwoman of the FDIC. That was a great conversation. Many of the individuals on stage that day, many women actually on the agenda today, which was great to see so many great speakers who also happen to be women, describing themselves as accidental bankers. I think it was one of my favorite phrases from the day, and Yelena explaining her how she ended up not only as a banker but as a banking regulator, walking through some of what happened during the financial crisis, what maybe regulators got right, what they got wrong, what could have gone better. Maybe we'll say during the COVID crisis, as well as the original financial crisis, or the last one in 2007, 2008. We also talked to Ellen about some of the emerging technologies, fintech partnerships, things like AI, how to approach your regulators and deal with that environment. That was, I thought, a really fascinating conversation. Obviously, an inside view from Washington about how to engage, what's possible, what makes sense. And that really rounded out a pretty phenomenal day worth of content. The thing I took away from the event, other than, I think, number one, the energy and excitement of having people in the same place. I got a lot of comments from people that they were ready for this kind of interesting content, for being in person with people again. It's been a while since we've really done that. And the energy that comes from being in the same place with people that you can really talk to and get ideas from and bounce ideas off of and learn from. I think that really came through. So that was great. I also thought it felt like, I'm always reminded of Jeff Bezos's comment from Amazon that it feels like day one. And it felt like a moment where everybody's looking at the future as one of very rich opportunity, despite maybe short-term headwinds in terms of the credit environment, or what we might think about regulatory environment, or things that might be slowing down. Just so many opportunities for improvement, for innovation, in areas like crypto, in areas like AI. Just so much energy and excitement around what's possible in the future, where the industry can and should go, and what that can look like for us. I thought that was a huge takeaway. In addition to wanting to be together, that kind of art of the possible was really the thing that I took away: the energy, the enthusiasm, the excitement about pursuing not only the things that are immediately in front of us, but the longer term vision of where we as a financial industry can take those products, those services, those consumer experiences, and what we can deliver in terms of opportunity for the American consumer. So this was, I thought, a phenomenal event. I would just say that because we hosted it, but I really enjoyed getting to not only talk to a lot of people, hear from a lot of the speakers who were uniformly fantastic, but also to just meet with the other attendees, to talk to people, to understand what they were doing, what they were seeing, and to swap ideas and share stories about how we can move the state of the art and the state of the industry forward. So a great event. This is our intent is to make this not an Upstart centric event, but really an Upstart sponsored event, where we're hopefully convening the right leaders from finance, from fintech, from tech, from government, and from consumer advocacy groups, to come together and have a conversation about where the big opportunities are, what we're seeing, and how we move the state of the art and the state of the industry forward. So I thought it was a great first run. We are very excited to think about what next year, 2023, will make possible for us. And so keep your eyes peeled on social media or reach out to me directly. We'll be sharing kind of add me to the list for people who'd like to attend next year. We do intend to keep this relatively small and invite only. We have, I think, a lot of energy and enthusiasm and opportunity that comes from making it a more intimate event. We will be publishing some of the contents of some of the speeches and some of the conversations will be published soon. So keep your eyes peeled from both my social media, and you can follow Upstart's social media as well to see where some of the content comes out, and you can see what was talked about at the event, but also where you can find out information about when you can sign up to find out about next year's event, because I think it was a great opportunity, a great event. I had a great time going. I hope everybody who came did as well, but I'm looking forward to next year as well. So that's just a short snippet. I know I did a little behind the scenes on my social media while we were there, but wanted to give a little more full featured update on what Boosted was like, how excited we were by the results from this year, and even more excited we are about the opportunities to do this again next year and really bring people together for energizing conversation. So I hope you enjoyed that description. And if you want to find out more about Boosted, please do reach out to me directly on LinkedIn, via email, or just reach out to Upstart, and we will make sure you find out about the information for Boosted next year.